Well, I rise to speak to the millions of Australians who've been hit with yet another interest rate rise today, number 12 since Labor was elected. If you have a $750,000 mortgage, you're now paying an extra $24,000 per year. The Reserve Bank has warned of even more rises to come. Australia today has higher inflation than nearly every major advanced economy in the world. There is no light at the end of this dark tunnel because Labor has no plan to fight inflation and rising interest rates. The fact is that Labor's grubby short-term vote buying, Labor's record immigration and Labor's suicidal rush to net zero are directly responsible for this inflation and the pain it is causing the Australian people. Labor has increased government spending by almost $200 billion. About $20 billion of this was cost of living relief that has pretty much already been overtaken by inflation. It included some of the biggest rises in pensions and unemployment benefits we've ever seen. Billions more have gone to childcare, Medicare, rent assistance and increased single parenting payment. Australians struggling with cost of living would understandably accept these handouts, with Labor banking their votes for the next election. It's vote buying, plain and simple. It's also robbing Peter to pay Paul. This short-term relief will mean greater pain in the long term. That $200 billion of additional spending has to come from somewhere. Spending has to be cut in other areas, or taxes have to go up, or the money must be borrowed. Labor loves to borrow. Our gross federal debt is approaching $1 trillion. It just goes up and up and up, while Labor and the Coalition refuse to do the hard work to pay down debt. Soon we'll be paying more than $32 billion a year in interest on this debt. That's $32 billion that won't be put towards a single road, a school or hospital. It just goes to creditors like central banks. Ultimately, every Australian for generations will be paying for it with higher taxes. Already we have the new Productivity Commissioner and the International Monetary Fund calling for an increase in the GST, which will make virtually every goods and service in Australia cost-effective by another 5% or more. And that's on top of rising inflation. I don't know the economists who were advising the Prime Minister, but as I said in my maiden speech in the other place, all those years ago, I wouldn't even let one of them handle my grocery shopping. Other economists are increasingly warning of the growing danger posed by Labor's record immigration. It is driving more inflation, suppressing wage growth and, of course, making our housing and rental crisis much worse than it should be or needs to be. We don't have enough homes for the people already here, and Labor plans to bring another 1.5 million people here in the next 2 to 3 years. This is making rentals unaffordable, even for people on comfortable incomes, and the latest interest rate rise will drive them up further. And finally, Labor, with the Greens' tail wagging the government dog, is rushing ahead with unrealistic renewables targets and emissions reductions. This is the art of chasing the votes of more impressionable and younger Australians who've been indoctrinated in the climate change cult, believing the planet is doomed unless Australia reduces its 1% of global emissions. Both of the parties of government do this. They sacrifice much-needed long-term reform for short-term political gains. They're basically incapable of thinking and planning beyond the next election. It's unsustainable. It can't go on. But it will go on as long as Australians keep on voting for these clowns based on handouts and transitory issues that ultimately do not contribute to building a prosperous nation and strong economy. Well, your Prime Minister is certainly aware of this, but I tell you, he doesn't care. And that's evident in the way he's run this country since his election. When his time in the job is over, he gets a golden parachute and a staffed office for life. But it's okay, Australians, you'll keep struggling.